there's asymmetrical warfare in how Republicans and Democrats do politics. Democrats fight individual battles on elections. Republicans tend to go after the system. So I worry when I watch the judiciary being our last line of defense for this.
You should.
Are you starting to see the Republicans go after the system here?
Conservatives have been very smart, I guess, in the judiciary of working within the system to attack the system. So right now you have a lot of conservative judges, and more are on their way because the Republicans in the Senate blocked so many of President Obama's nominees to the bench in his last year or so. So there's a lot of options for Trump to fill the courts with his conservative nominees, who will come in and want to, for example, tear down the administrative state, So they're working within the system. But you're right. It's been, and, I will say that President Trump was correct in his tweet this morning, at least with respect to the Supreme Court, because getting Neil Gorsuch on the bench is a big win for him.
He did so much for that.
He did.
He worked so hard for that.
Mitch McConnell changed the rules of the Senate, and they didn't have to do anything but keep their members moderately in line.
Yeah, and they blocked Merrick Garland for an entire year. And, that, talk about unprecedented and breaking down of norms. So, that was a big victory for
We don't talk about Merrick Garland enough.
I know.
It is... What do you think he's doing right now? No, I don't.
He has a very good job. He's on the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals doing great work.
Going to be all right.
But I mean, that is what we saw happen there. Because I think because everyone just sort of said, well, the Republicans are being douchebags. Can I say that?
You just did.
Well, I don't know. My mom is listening, Jonathan.
Deep apologies.
I'm so sorry. I would never.
Because the Republicans were being doo-doo pants and holding this up. But we all said Hillary's going to win. So we all kind of said, all right, this is just delaying
Guilty
it.
as charged.
And then Hillary didn't win, and Donald Trump won, and the crisis wasn't Merrick Garland. It was everything.
Right, yes.
So I don't think we've given enough attention to how much of a breaking of norms what happened there was.
Yes.
Mitch McConnell and the Republicans said, Obama, we've created an arbitrary timeline where you are no longer allowed to do what the Constitution tells you you're allowed to do.
Right. Yes. For an entire year.
How do we fix that?
Oh gosh, I mean, I think for me as a Supreme Court lawyer, a lot of people I think look at that from the lens of politics and say, it's rough and tumble politics, but we had a Supreme Court that basically didn't function properly because they didn't have the full complement of 9 justices for nearly a year. And, in that time, they heard incredibly important cases. For example, the immigration case that protected, under the DAPA program, parents of certain lawful permanent resident and U.S. citizen children. The court split on that. They couldn't do their job and decide cases. And, the Supreme Court is probably... the most respected if you look at it versus Congress and the president. And so to drag the court into this political dysfunction, for me, was very disheartening. I think on the bright side, the people on the court and, Chief Justice Roberts, I disagree with him on a lot of issues, but I agree with him when he talks about the need to make sure that the court is seen as not another political body. So I think that gives me some hope. And we'll see this term. We have a lot of really important Supreme Court cases coming down the pike. And so it'll be interesting to see how Gorsuch fits into that, whether there's a little bit of a split between him and some of the more establishment Republicans who sometimes can vote in ways that surprise progressives and please them.